There was a garden, quiet, beautiful, and full of life. Every morning, sunlight would spill across the stone paths, warming the dew on the leaves. And in the middle of that little garden, among the roses and daisies and wild lavender, worked a woman named Clara. Clara was not just a gardener. She was a listener. She believed that every leaf, every petal, had its own voice. You just had to be patient enough to hear it. For 30 years, Clara had tended that city garden. She watched seasons come and go, saw lovers carve their initials into the old oak, and watched children chase butterflies along the hedge. Everything in that place grew under her care. Everything except for one tree. It was a small apple tree planted years ago near the stone fountain. And though the other trees bloomed in soft whites and pinks every spring, this one remained bare, year after year. At first, Clara thought it was just shy. She talked to it, watered it gently, and pruned its branches with care. But as the years passed and still no blossom appeared, the townsfolk began to whisper. "Clara," said one man one afternoon, "you should just cut that thing down. It's been 5 years. It's never going to bloom." Another woman added, "It's wasting space. You could plant something new there." Clara would only smile, her voice calm and soft. "Every tree has its own time," she'd say. "You just have to believe in it." But as the years rolled on, even Clara began to doubt herself. Each spring came and went, the air filled with the perfume of apple blossoms, and that one stubborn tree stood there, lifeless and silent. No buds, no fragrance, just stillness. Sometimes when she walked past it, she'd rest her hand on its trunk and whisper, "Are you trying to tell me something, old friend? Or have I been hoping for nothing?" Still, she never cut it down. There was something about it, something that made her hold on. Then one night the storm came, the kind of storm that tears through the sky with roaring winds and blinding rain. Lightning split the sky open, and trees bent under the fury of the wind. When the sun rose the next morning, the garden was unrecognizable. Flowers were torn from their beds. The fountain overflowed with muddy water. And in the middle of it all, the apple tree lay half fallen, its branches broken, its roots half exposed. Clara stood there for a long time, her umbrella trembling in her hands. The sight of that tree, the one she had defended for years, now lying in ruin, felt like the final straw. She knelt beside it, rain soaking through her coat. "Maybe they were right," she whispered. "Maybe I've been foolish all along." For the first time, she considered giving up. She fetched her saw and walked toward the tree. But then she saw something, a small bump, a tender shape near the tip of a cracked branch. She leaned closer, and there it was, a bud, tiny, fragile, barely alive. But it was there. Clara froze. Her hands trembled as she brushed the mud from the branch, and tears, warm and unexpected, began to fall down her cheeks. "You waited for the storm," she whispered. "You waited for the storm to begin growing." That spring, Clara didn't cut the tree. She nursed it back, tying its branches, supporting its roots, talking to it like she always had, but this time with renewed faith. Weeks passed. Then one morning, when the sun rose over the city, a sparkle of white caught her eye. A blossom, then another, and another. Within days, the once bare tree was covered with white flowers, glowing softly in the early light, like snow that had decided to stay forever. The same people who once told Clara to cut it down now stood speechless. They couldn't believe it. How did this happen?" they asked. Clara only smiled and said, "Some trees need to break before they learn to bloom." From that day forward, Clara tended her garden differently. She no longer rushed the seasons. When a flower refused to open or a seed refused to sprout, she simply smiled, because she had learned something that day, something the old apple tree had taught her better than any book or teacher could. That growth doesn't always look like progress. That waiting doesn't mean failure. And that sometimes The most beautiful things bloom after the hardest storms. There's a quiet lesson in Clara's garden, one that echoes far beyond the soil. Sometimes you are the gardener, patient, nurturing, full of faith. Other times you are the tree, silent, struggling, and waiting for your own season to bloom. Both are needed, both are sacred. So when life feels like it's standing still, when you've given your all and still see no blossoms, remember Clara's garden. Remember that bud that waited for the storm. Because maybe, just maybe, you're not failing, you're preparing to bloom. If this story touched your heart, remember to subscribe to Tales by Theo, where every story reminds you, sometimes the storm isn't here to destroy you. It's here to make you grow.